Hello, everyone. This is Jason. This is one for the next 120 days. There will be no immigration from certain countries, particularly Muslim countries, particularly Syria. Donald Trump signed an executive order, and then he's going to, after the 120 days is over, he's going to come up with a new concept on how we vet immigrants who come into America so we can get rid of those pesky Islamic terrorists. Now, let me say this. The war on terror is fake. It is not real. Oh, the military would like you to believe it's real, and they get funded almost $1 trillion a year and are allowed to go to countries which are predominantly Muslim and have massive natural resources and geostrategic positioning. This is why Donald Trump is dangerous. This is a law and order, psychopathic, I don't care what logic or reason or facts or details or any of those things matter. All that matter to Donald Trump is his idea of the world. 80% of Americans in most polls do not want there to be any delineation between Christian and Muslim refugees. Religion should not have a factor. If people are coming from a country that is war-torn, partially because of America, they should be able to come to the United States, go through the process, whatever. But this is stopping people under the idea that there is a war on terror and that Islamic fundamentalist terrorists are trying to enter the United States and jihad. It's not fucking real. America is not under threat from Islamic terrorists. 9/11, if we can have this discussion all you want, 9/11 was a fucking inside job from stem to stern. If you want to go research more on your own 9/11, feel free. I'm kind of done with all the conspiracy inner talk. I know what I know. You can now go find out for yourself. Believe me, don't believe me, think it was, don't think it was. It's not my business what you think. But what I don't like is this idea that the war on terror is real. And what's more ironic than any of this, folks, is that the alternative right wing, who it's made its nut, Alex Jones has built his entire career on telling you 9/11 was an inside job, supports Donald Trump. Supports this idea of there is Islamic terrorists, there's a real war on terror, there are really Muslims who wanted to take down America because they don't like our freedoms. It's a lie. It's a justification to go to war in a certain part of the world against a certain group of people. That's what the war on terror is. I just want to be abundantly clear here. So what Donald Trump is doing is, all he's doing is persecuting people who aren't Christians. That's Christo-fascism. Okay? Do I believe Donald Trump is religious? I don't care either way. But his base is all Christian, and everybody surrounds himself with Christian, and what is it? 70% of Americans identify themselves as Christian. So he knows what his base is, and he thinks he is creating a religious war based on nothing, based on a lie. He even mentioned 9/11 on his ABC News interview. Do I need to mention 9/11? He didn't say 9/11. He said, do I need to mention the Trade Center? And I'm just amazed at all these alternative right-wingers who made their living tell you 9/11 was an inside job. 9/11. Now, they're done with that. Now 9/11 wasn't an inside job. Alex Jones, apparently, the whole thing that's kicked off this global supremacy of 16 years of war, 15 years of fucking war is because of 9/11. We are under 15 straight years of warfare. This is not the way you run a country. This is not the way you run an empire. This is not the way you run anything. This country is going down. This is the end. We're in the end. Go read Morris Berman. Go read people like Henry Giroux. They point this. Michael Parenti. We can point out the people that point this out. This is the end. And when we are collectively getting together and pretending that there is a war on terror, so we're going to stop. It's one thing to say there's a war on terror and then let refugees in and let the military. It's another thing to say, because of the war on terror, we're going to stop every Muslim from coming into this country for the next 120 days. And then we're going to read it. That is insanity. And what happens to the Muslims that are in this country? What happens to people? So they're all going to be on watch lists eventually, right? They'll eventually, every Muslim, which they already are, but they'll be on some sort of list. I know Muslims. I know kind, caring, considerate, good Muslims. And by the way, American right-wingers, the Muslims that came to your country were not poor jihadist Muslims who were disenfranchised because of foreign intervention in their country and other countries. That if you do a poll of people who have been quote unquote terrorists, or people who support terrorism, or the ideas of why people are terrorists, it's because of governments, the United States, invading other countries and occupying, foreign occupation. America is responsible for any radicalization that has gone on in that part of the world. Period. But Donald Trump, we've caused it. Now you don't get to come here anymore. At least under Bush and Obama, they were allowed to come here. At least when we radicalized them, if they could get the visas, if they were in immediate danger, like the Syrian refugees, they could get out. And Donald Trump has lied yet again, about something so very important. It's Christian. He claims that Christians in Syria were much more persecuted than Muslims, and it was much harder for Christians to get to America than Muslims. Bullshit. That's a total lie. Christians, there were like half the amount of Christians were dispossessed from their homes as Muslims. Christians are not being their very livelihoods are not being threatened. Muslims, the Muslim religion has become an enemy of the largest military that's ever existed on the planet. They're creating a culture war. They're creating a holy war simply for geostrategic positioning and oil. I mean, that's what's happening. And Donald Trump is doing this because he knows, I think, or somebody has had to tell him, we need there to be this continued idea that Muslims are going to strap on bombs and walk into your fucking mall and blow you up. That's what the image of the Muslim must be. Because we got Project for a New American Century foreign policy coming out of the Pentagon to do. We have to demonize Muslims. Obama bombed, and they're still bombing them, by the way. 5 Muslim countries, all mentioned in the Project for a New American Century, which was the thing that said that we needed a catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor to get everybody on board with this foreign policy that we were currently under. And it just so happened they had a new Pearl Harbor in 9/11. If you can't see that, if you can't read the Project for a New American Century documents and realize that they gave the justification for all of this before it happened, and then those same people went into the State Department and Defense Department before 9/11 ever happened, they planned it. They executed it, planned it, executed it, did. From, I believe, Dick Cheney, who is many people call the greatest insider politician in Washington, one of the greatest. He can get things done on every level, from the Pentagon to the State Department to the House to the local. He knows how the gears work. He knows the bureaucracy. He would have been the perfect man to be the pivot man in the 9/11 attack, because he knows how everything works. He knows which generals to remove. He knows what laws to pass. He knows who has the information to what. So when I look at Donald Trump now, not letting Muslims into this country, people who have been victims of American foreign policy, even George Bush wasn't this evil. Even George Bush wasn't this bizarre. Blame the other. Don't change American foreign policy. This is the wall. This is the Mexican wall, folks. Don't change the economic system that's doing this to the American people and the Mexican people. IMF, World Bank. Don't hire minimum wages. Don't influx Mexico with financial help on the border. Don't create jobs. Don't do any of those things. Build a wall. Super shallow, superficial, and a complete distraction away from what's really the problem. That's what this Muslim ban is. It's a complete distraction away from the problem. It's America radicalizing, and he's just Mad Dog Mattis and all these people who want to bring torture back, and these people who want to who they're going to bring black sites back. I mean, Donald Trump is doing things that he doesn't. This isn't. You could be going softer on all of this, but he's not. He's going further. He's going to increase the military budget. And by the way, he said all of this when he was running. All of it. He said he was going to do all of this, and guess what, motherfuckers? He's doing it. All you Republicans, all you conservatives who told me he's just saying this stuff and he's not really going to do it, he's now building a wall so Mexicans, so instead of changing any financial, it's not going to make your life better, it's going to make it worse because it'll be less money for you. And he's actually prioritizing $15 billion to a wall to Mexico, rather than just putting into schools or infrastructure or any of the things that we need. He's increasing the military's budget. He has now banned Muslims For the next 120 days, he has banned particularly Syria refugees, but he will review every single refugee that wants to come into America. He has created an enemy that isn't real. How many times has America been attacked on its soil by terrorists? If you don't count 9/11, 9/11 was the most. I mean, it's the most audacious, unbelievable plan. And of course, it was 4 planes were hijacked simultaneously, and then they go off the radar. You can go watch the movie. You can go watch the documentaries. You can read go read the 9/11. The official 9/11 report. Go read the 32 redacted pages about Saudi Arabia. Go read about how Saudi Arabia, through American intelligence, was funding some of these terrorists and moving them around. Go listen to the interviews from the people who were in these committees and said, we did not get all the information. Dick Cheney would not testify under oath. George Bush would not testify under oath. Why? Because they did it. And if they get caught, they know they could be prosecuted for it. And so nobody analyzed 9/11, nobody investigated it other than hardcore right-wing conspiracy theorists who don't trust the government anyway. And now a lot of those hardcore right-wing conspiracy theorists are Donald Trump supporters who listen to him say, I am getting rid of all Muslims. Radical Islamic terrorists is the biggest threat to America. The war on terror is fake. And it's ironic that people like Alex Jones support a man who believes that the war on terror is real. It isn't. It's fake. It's complete horseshit. 9/11 was an inside job, and because it was never investigated by an independent body, or by the way, even if it had been investigated by an independent body, you have to be stronger than the United States to have prosecuted anybody, right? Because if you would have tried to go get George Bush or Dick Cheney or any of these people that were involved, you would have had to have had the strength of arresting powers, and that means military. That means law enforcement. And you can't arrest people who are head of the government because they're not, and you can't even get to the point where you get them prosecuted or charged because people just throw it out because it's so ridiculous. I mean, we didn't even get to court. Nothing's gotten to court. And anytime anybody tried to sue, it was immediately thrown out. So if you don't want to be honest about 9/11, if you want to believe that Muslim terrorists are a threat to America, to anybody, if you want to believe that America doesn't radicalize these people, if you want to believe that America had nothing to do with any of this, even if you don't believe that 9/11 was, even if you believe that 19 Arab hijackers hijacked 4 planes and crashed them, 2 into buildings, 1 into Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and 1 into the Pentagon, you still have to know that those people were ushered around by our intelligence community. They lived with FBI agents, 2 of the terrorists, 2 of the hijackers. They were warned. People were warning them from flight schools. They were calling the FBI and telling them, go look at Colleen Crowley's work. Go look at Daniel Hopsicker's work. Go look at, and these are independent, these are journalists, and some of these people are whistleblowers. These aren't fucking crazy, nutty conspiracy theorists. They're pointing out, look at the Florida connections. And the intelligence community was all over this. But Donald Trump won't investigate that because he needs to blame the other. He likes war. He wants to kill everybody but white Christians, essentially. People that believe in what he believes. People that are on board with him. He's a racist. He's a xenophobe. He wouldn't rent to black people. When he was getting federal money, he wouldn't rent to black people and was sued for it. This banning Muslims, that is fucking insane. And it's all based on this, and he said it. It's all based on 9/11, and 9/11 was an inside job. 9/11 was perpetuated by the Bush administration to get you into an endless war in the Middle East. Forever and infinitum. You can't go invade Iraq, Afghanistan, into Syria. You can't go into Somalia. You can't go into Yemen. You can't go into any of these countries without 9/11. You can't. There's no justification. You can't kill Saddam Hussein. You can't take Saddam Hussein and hang him in public without 9/11. You can't go and have complete regime overthrow in Iraq without 9/11. I don't give a fuck what kind of analysis you want to give me. Oh, well, the American people could have gone in without 9/11. Bullshit. You weren't paying attention in 2000, and I was astute observer. We were coming out of war. We weren't war. Yeah, Clinton was bombing aspirin factories in the Sudan. Yes, and he was doing, but we weren't fighting a quote unquote war against Muslim extremists. How you define that is how you choose to define that is how many enemies we have. And that's very convenient, isn't it? And a war on terror is not a war against a country where you can overthrow it. It's an idea, so you can have this war forever. For the next 100 years, you can be fighting a fake war on terror. Just complete fake. And it'll give the justification for the Pentagon's infinite budget. This is how the military works. First, and this is how America works, by the way, too. First, it was those savages, those Indians. We got to kill the Indians. They're scalping us. They're killing. By the way, we took over their continent and killed 12 million, or 6 million of them at least. 6 million Indians. The Europeans did. So, but then first it was the savages. Then it moved into communists. The communists were the big problem. We got to fight them. Now it's the terrorists. Now it's the war on terror. And the war on terror is better than anything because it's forever. There's no Russia associated. There is no one state that is associated with the war on terror. So it's any country they want to go to anytime. Drone strikes with the running bombing strikes into Pakistan with drones. You can go on the guys you're fighting a war on terror. Let me be clear, and I don't care if I lose I don't care if every progressives, you abrogated your responsibility for the last 8 years. I knew so many people who, when Bush was president, believed 9/11 was an inside job, and then Obama becomes president, and nobody wanted to talk about it anymore. Nobody wanted to hear about it, and 9/11 was not an inside job, and it did not because he was softer-handed with Muslims. He was still an asshole, but he didn't ban him. He didn't do this. He didn't use the war on terror. I mean, he did, but he didn't use it like this. This is surrealism. I said this in my last video. This is postmodernism, surreal America. The war on terror. Reminds me of this. I'm serious. And I know Obama was looking back to what Obama was compared to what George Bush was. This feels like George Bush again. This feels like we're all living in a lie. It's 2004, 5, 6, and we're all living in a lie. And it feels the same thing. It feels like we're living in a complete dishonest time. I didn't like Obama. I didn't like all his dancing and all his bullshit and he was a good speaker and he was thoughtful and he didn't do shit for the working class people in this country. I have major problems with. But this is a fantasy that Republicans continue to use because they're law and order. Because they want to justify taking over every single country that they want to take over. Because they don't have sympathy, they don't have empathy. They believe that the American empire should reign forever. Infinitum, should be in charge. They believe the Republicans, conservatives should run America and that America should run the world. And that will lead to whatever it leads to. I don't really give a shit about this country anymore. This country is unsavable. So, but my point is, banning Muslims, this is the end. You're seeing the end times in America. You're starting to see it. What's next? You're going to start rounding Muslims up and putting them in FEMA camps? Where are all the right-wing motherfuckers that were against Obama that were screaming about this during the Bush administration? The fake war on terror, 9/11 is an inside job. I can point out many people who built their entire YouTube pages on 9/11 was an inside job, or they built their careers on it, or partially. Now those same people support Donald Trump. Thank you for listening.